Okay, welcome back everybody. Unit 8. We are going to do listening to today, reducing your carbon footprint. Okay, if you can open your textbook and go to page 189. Okay, there we are, listening to a call to action. First off, we're going to do the vocabulary just as usual. Read the fact sheet. Notice the bold-faced word. Fact sheet 1. The motor vehicle industry is one of the top 10 areas of manufacturing in the United States. Industry. 2. Factories. In China, produce 25% of the automobiles in the world. We've got the word factories. 3. Newer cars are more energy efficient, so they need less gasoline than older cars. Energy efficient. 4. New technologies such as radar to help cars drive backwards will make cars easier and safer to drive. Technology. 5. Newer cars use less gasoline, and this reduces their carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, 5 words. What I want you to do is match those words with the definitions here from A to E. You can pause your video. Great. That brings us to the comprehension of the listening, and of course before we do any listening we always do a preview. We always try to figure out what type of audio it is. Is it a monologue? Is it a dialogue? What is it? And what is the topic and the purpose? Okay, before we go into the long audio, listen to the speech at an environmental rally and then answer the questions number 1 and 2. Now, before we do that, I want you to look at the picture. Here you see someone who's speaking at a rally. And we see the pie chart with the division of percentages. Yes. And we know that the audio is a speech. So someone is speaking. So it's a monologue. One person who is talking. And it is a rally. As we look at it, it's about environment. So pay notice, take notes, and try to answer number 1 and 2. And before you do that, please always analyze the question. Underline or circle the keywords in each question and go over the answer choices so it's easier for you to follow. Let's listen.
Like me, you're trying hard to reduce your own personal carbon footprint. And these small, individual changes do have an impact, do help lower our carbon emissions. But it's not enough. It's not enough for individuals to change. We need governments to change. We need industry to change. We need big changes if we want to stop global warming from destroying our planet. One third of our global carbon emissions, 35%, comes from producing electricity. We need government and industry to work together to lower these emissions, to develop new, cleaner technology to heat our homes, power our factories, and to keep the lights on. Another 20% of our emissions comes from transportation. We need government and industry to work together to build more energy efficient cars and trucks, to build more public transportation, good quality public transportation that will let us get rid of our cars and the pollution they produce forever. Another 20% of all emissions comes from industry, our factories and businesses, putting tons upon tons of carbon into the air, every single minute. It's time to say enough. We need these businesses to lower their own personal carbon footprints. So, my message to you today is, keep trying to reduce your personal carbon footprint. But also, stand up and demand. Demand that government and industry do their part, because that is what will really make a difference.
Okay, very good. Answer the questions. That man was very persuasive. Okay, that brings us to the listening skill. Repetition to emphasize a point. When we emphasize a point, we are really trying to point out the importance of something. So we really emphasize by even maybe in a way saying it louder or raising our voice, or we make sure that the person who listens knows that that point is important. Listen to an excerpt of the speech or call to action. Now, what words or phrases does the speaker repeat? Okay, let's listen to this.
But also, stand up and demand. Demand that government and industry do their part.
See, there are several words that you hear are repeated and are emphasized. Yeah, speakers repeat words and phrases in grammatical patterns to make their point stronger or to signal that they are important. The repetition also creates a rhythm, like a song, or a poem. That sounds good to the listener. Now, repetition is common in public speeches. Just now, with the example, you heard that the man also repeated certain words. It became almost like there is a clear rhythm in it. Okay, listen to the example and notice the bold-faced words and the underlined patterns. Okay, while you're listening, you can read the example.
It's not enough for individuals to change. We need governments to change. We need industry to change. We need big changes if we want to stop global warming from destroying our planet.
Okay, that's very obvious. The repetition of the words and phrases, he keeps saying we need. And emphasis on the word to. Of course, emphasis on the word change. And change is repeated like 4 times. Makes it very clear what we need to do. Yeah, so that emphasizes really on the importance. The repetition makes the statement stronger, and it emphasizes that there is a need of change. So that it is very important. Okay, awesome. We've got 2 excerpts here, and I want you to listen to the excerpts, and then I want you to fill in the missing words in the repeated grammatical patterns. So go over it real quick, and then we're gonna start listening. Yeah, so you're gonna fill out the missing parts, but you're also gonna answer the questions. Let's start with excerpt 1.
We need government and industry to work together to lower these emissions, to develop new, cleaner technology to heat our homes, power our factories, and to keep the lights on.
Great. Okay, number 1, what words and or grammatical patterns are repeated? Number 2, what ideas is the speaker trying to emphasize? Yeah? You can write that down. That brings us to excerpt 2.
We need government and industry to work together to build more energy efficient cars and trucks, to build more public transportation.
Awesome. Again, number 1, what words and grammatical patterns are repeated? And number 2, what ideas is the speaker trying to emphasize? Yeah, showing that it is important. Please fill that out. That brings us to the last part of today's lesson, connecting the listenings. Yeah, so we're going to look at listening 1, which we did the first time a while ago, and today's listening, which is listening 2. Step 1 in organizing, we're going to listen to the listenings 1 and 2 again. That's going to be repeated. And then I want you to complete the chart with ways to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. So let's look at the table. The vertical line shows individuals and government and industry. And then the first part is listening 1, which is about living small, grow, use, and live. And the second listening we did just now is about a call to action, the speech. It's about to reduce, to tell, work, develop, build, and reduce. I want you, while you're listening, to fill this out. Let's go.
Hey, come on in. Welcome to my house. My name is Julia Peters, and I live in Portland, Oregon. It's important for me to live with a small personal carbon footprint because I realize that there are lots of people sharing this earth and lots of people that will come after us. It's my responsibility to protect it and make it better, to live as small as I can so that it doesn't affect future generations, their ability to live well and healthily on the planet. We're in my house today, which is a small house, but we try to do the most with what we have. Our yard is almost all used for growing food. So you have to make your way through the jungle here. Here in the backyard, you can see it's not much of a yard. There's not much grass. We've taken out most of the grass to put in raised beds so that we can grow more of our own food. Right now, with it being spring, early summer, we have a lot of things that we grew from seeds inside the house. But if you were here in August and September, hopefully this would be really full with lots of tomatoes, basil plants, squash, all kinds of things. We try to grow as much of our own food as we can because it reduces our carbon footprint. If we grow it on our own property, we don't have to go to the store and get it, and then the store buys it from someplace. For the average American, food on your plate has traveled 1,500 miles. That obviously is a huge environmental impact when your food gets transported from so far away. We also have chickens as a way to reduce our impact. We eat mostly vegetarian. A lot of our protein comes from beans, but also from eggs. We have 6 chickens. Hi, girls. They lay eggs, and in the summertime, they lay more. So right now, we get about 4 eggs a day. Another thing that we try to do on site is to create our own energy. We have solar panels on our roof, and in the summertime, they produce about enough energy to power our house. Obviously, energy that doesn't come from our solar panels, we have to get from an energy company. But a lot of power in the United States comes from coal, and coal has a huge environmental impact. If we don't reduce our coal consumption, the average temperature of the earth will go up by 1 to 2 degrees. So it's a really critical time to think about how we get our power. Our house is a small house, and it's 3 small bedrooms, and we have 4 people living here. And that's another way we try to reduce our footprint, is by dense living. If I were going to live in this house by myself, I would still use energy for the lights, to heat it, to run the refrigerator. By having 4 people, we are collectively using almost the same amount of energy, but it's split by 4 people instead of each person living in their own apartment or house. By sharing more, by living together and sharing resources, that's another way we try to reduce our footprint and limit what we use. For some people to say that small personal efforts are just a drop in the bucket, that they don't really have an effect, I can understand that. That makes sense. That how does one person out of 6 billion have an impact? And I think there are a few things about that to remember, is that the more people that do it, it's not just one drop, it's a lot of drops, and that can make a change.
We are here today because we want to stop global warming. Like me, you're trying hard to reduce your own personal carbon footprint. And these small, individual changes do have an impact, do help lower our carbon emissions. But it's not enough. It's not enough for individuals to change. We need governments to change. We need industry to change. We need big changes if we want to stop global warming from destroying our planet. One third of our global carbon emissions, 35%, comes from producing electricity. We need government and industry to work together to lower these emissions, to develop new, cleaner technology to heat our homes, power our factories, and to keep the lights on. Another 20% of our emissions comes from transportation. We need government and industry to work together to build more energy efficient cars and trucks, to build more public transportation, good quality public transportation that will let us get rid of our cars and the pollution they produce forever. Another 20% of all emissions comes from industry, our factories and businesses, putting tons upon tons of carbon into the air, our air, every single minute. It's time to say enough. We need these businesses to lower their own personal carbon footprints. So, my message to you today is, keep trying to reduce your personal carbon footprint. But also, stand up and demand that government and industry do their part, because that is what will really make a difference.
Okay, very good. You can fill out the table. That brings us to the end of our lesson for today. So good. Yeah, so we started off with our vocabulary as usual. Yeah, we had the 5 words and looking for the definition. Then we went over comprehension. We had to listen and try to comprehend what we were hearing and filling out a pie chart. Then we went over the listening skill repetition to emphasize a point. Emphasizing a point is making sure that it is heard and showing the listener that it is important. And that's also why we so often repeat the point, to make sure that it is understood. And at the end, we listen to both listening sections, listening 1 and 2, to fill out the table and to see whether we understood everything and how we could connect the information from listening 1 and listening 2. Very good. Awesome. You did a great job. I will see you very soon in our next video. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.